Namaste, welcome to the Advaita channel. Satguru Mujiji Ki Jai, Satguru Anantaji Ki Jai, Sangaji Ki Jai. So today I'm going to be reading from The Transparency of Things, Contemplating the Nature of Experience by Rupert Spira. We started last week with the forward and an initial contemplation. And it's very beautiful, really, a very beautiful book that is very experiential. It's not intellectual. Its focus is on guiding into that experience, helping us to see that our essential nature is this presence of awareness that is just confirmed by everything, all experiences, sensations, perceptions, everything that we experience is just screaming that this presence of awareness is here, and that's something that has been very profoundly felt since I've come into contact really with Rupert's work. So there'll be some time for silence, and I'm just going to read through the Contemplations and take breaks for some silence. So here we go. Just hoping if anyone's joining that they can actually hear the broadcast. Namaste, Pekka. Take care on the road. Just want to check, can you hear the broadcast? Actually, I know there's a little bit of a delay, so okay, we'll start anyway. Hopefully the sound is working. The Garden of Unknowing. The abstract concepts of the mind cannot apprehend reality, although they are an expression of it. Duality, the subject-object polarization, is inherent in the concepts of the mind. For instance, when we speak of the body, we refer to an object, which in turn implies a subject. If we explore this object, we discover that it is non-existent as such, and is in fact only a sensation. However, a sensation is still an object, and further exploration reveals that it is in fact made of sensing, of mind stuff, rather than anything physical. However, sensing, in turn, is discovered to be made of knowing. And if we explore knowing, we find that it is made of consciousness. If we explore consciousness, we find that it has no objective qualities, and yet it is what we most intimately know ourselves to be. It is what we refer to as I. And if we explore I, we find it is made of. The abstract concepts of the mind collapse here. They cannot go any further. There is no adequate name for that into which the mind dissolves. We are taken to the utmost simplicity of direct experience. This de-objectification is the process of apparent involution, through which that which cannot be named withdraws its projection of the mind, body, and world, and rediscovers that it is the sole substance of the seamless totality of experience. That which cannot be named, the absolute emptiness into which the mind collapses, then projects itself within itself, back along the same path of apparent objectification, to recreate the appearance of the mind, body, and world. That which cannot be named, and yet which is sometimes referred to as I, consciousness, being, knowingness, takes the shape of thinking, sensing, or perceiving in order to appear as a mind, a body, or a world. This is the process of apparent evolution, through which that which cannot be named gives birth to a mind, a body, and a world, without ever becoming anything other than itself. This process of evolution and involution is the dance of oneness, that which cannot be named taking shape and dissolving, vibrating in every nuance of experience and dissolving itself into itself, transparent, open, empty, and luminous. Mind attempts to describe the modulations of this emptiness manifesting itself as the fullness of experience, and this fullness recognizing itself as emptiness, knowing all the time that in doing so it is holding a candle to the wind. Mind describes the names and forms through which that which cannot be named refracts itself, in order to make itself appear as two, as many, in order to make consciousness, being, appear as consciousness and being. And using the same names and forms, mind describes the apparent process through which that which cannot be named discovers that it never becomes anything, that it is always only itself and itself and itself. Each statement that is made here is provisionally true in relation to one statement, but false in relation to another. However, it is never absolutely true. The purpose of every statement is to indicate the falsity of the previous one, only to await its own imminent demise. Each is an agent of truth, but never true. Mind, in the broadest sense of the word, is made of concepts and appearances. It never frames or grasps reality itself. However, by speaking in this way, mind is being used to create evocations rather than descriptions of the experience of consciousness knowing itself. Those evocations are temporary expressions of that which cannot be named, like flowers blossoming for a moment, shedding the perfume of their origin on the garden of unknowing. And it's important to clarify here as a footnote that the word mind is used in two ways in this book. The first, as in this sentence, includes A, thinking and imagining, B, sensing, referring to bodily sensations, and C, perceiving, referring to seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling and touching, through which the world is known. In this case, the body and the world are understood to be projections of the mind. The second refers only to thinking and imagining. In most cases, the latter meaning is intended, but occasionally mind is referred to in its broader meaning. Clear seeing. All that is happening in these contemplations is the clear seeing of the essential nature of experience. There is no attempt to change or manipulate it, to create a peaceful or happy state, to get rid of suffering or to change the world. There is simply the clear seeing of the true nature of this current experience. This clear seeing is not an intellectual understanding, although it may be formulated provisionally in intellectual terms when required by the current situation. Rather, it is the direct, intimate, and immediate knowing of ourselves, resting in and as the formless expanse of presence, and simultaneously dancing in the vibrancy and aliveness of every gesture and nuance of the body, mind, and world. The clear seeing of what is has a profound effect on the appearance of the mind, the body, and the world. But that is not the object of this investigation. There is no object to this investigation. Even the purpose of seeing clearly turns out to be too much in the end. It is the thorn that removes the thorn. And when even this last trace of becoming has been dissolved in understanding, it too is abandoned, leaving only being. However, in most cases, this exploration is a prelude to the revelation of being. We start with experience and stay close to it. We do not start with a theory, a model, a map, or a teaching, and then try to fit our experience into that model. Absolutely nothing is taken for granted. We start with experience and we end with experience. We allow the naked clarity of experience itself to relieve itself of the burden of duality. We simply look at the facts of experience. Is it true of my experience in this moment? That is the only reference point. The few core beliefs and preconceived ideas that we hold about the nature of ourselves and the world are exposed in this disinterested investigation. We do not do anything to these beliefs. We're not trying to destroy them, but rather to expose them. Belief and doubt are two sides of the same coin. When a belief is exposed, it is found either to be true, in which case the belief becomes a fact and the doubt that was implicit in it is dissolved, or it's found to be false, in which case both the belief and the doubt will naturally come to an end. Any feelings or patterns of behaviour that were dependent on the belief that has been exposed will, in due time, naturally dissolve, simply because they are no longer nourished by the belief. They die of neglect. These feelings and patterns of behaviour are the counterpart at the level of the body to beliefs at the level of the mind. These feelings and patterns of behaviour are the counterpart at the level of the body to beliefs at the level of the mind. And their dissolution is accomplished in the same way. What was an investigation at the level of mind is an exploration at the level of the body. In this exploration, these feelings and patterns of behaviour are exposed. And in this exposure, their power to separate is revealed to be non-existent. In this exploration, these feelings and patterns of behaviour are exposed, and in this exposure, their power to separate is revealed to be non-existent. Separation is not simply understood to be an illusion, it is felt as such. No longer nourished by belief, these feelings are exposed and as such are seen for what they are. They die of the fierce clarity of being clearly seen. This dissolution of beliefs and feelings has a profound effect on our lives, our ideas, our relationships, our bodies, our work, the world, in fact, on everything. However, the purpose of this investigation and exploration is not to change anything. It is simply the clear seeing of what is, and clear seeing is the shrine on which being shines. It is simply the clear seeing of what is, and clear seeing is the shrine on which being shines. This line of investigation could be likened to taking several MRI scans of an apple. With each scan, the apple is sliced up in different ways, each one showing a new section or point of view. However, the apple is never touched in this process. It always remains just as it is, whole, untouched, unmodified, undivided. It only appears to be divided, and this appearance gives a more complete picture of its true undivided nature. It is the same with our experience. The contemplations in this book are like MRI scans of our experience. They look at experience from many angles, spreading it out, opening it up. However, our experience itself is always one. It is always a seamless, unified totality with no separate parts, and its nature is always only pure consciousness. think it's important to note actually that Rupert doesn't tend to use, he tends to use consciousness, awareness synonymously. That is a fact of experience, and it never changes. I'll repeat that again. It is always a seamless, unified totality with no separate parts, and its nature is always only pure consciousness. That is a fact of experience, and it never changes, even if we think it to be otherwise. This line of inquiry comes from the truth of direct experience, and therefore leads back to it. It leads to the reality of experience, to the experience of consciousness knowing itself knowingly. It is ruthless and tender at the same time, and utterly simple. It is sometimes thought that this kind of inquiry is intellectual and abstract, and seems to bear little relation to our day-to-day experience. However, it is only because our conventional dualistic concepts about the nature of reality are themselves so densely interwoven with abstract and erroneous ideas that they require some meticulous deconstruction. In this case, it has not yet been seen that what are considered to be our normal, common sense assumptions are in fact themselves intellectual and abstract. That is, they have little to do with the facts of experience. By the end of the book, I hope it will be clear that it is in fact our conventional ways of seeing that bear little relation to our actual moment-by-moment experience. And by contrast, I hope that the formulations expressed here will be understood as simple and obvious statements about the nature of our experience, albeit within the limited confines of the mind. For instance, it is usually considered a fact of indisputable common sense that the body and the world exist as physical objects in time and space, independent and separate from consciousness. Any line of reasoning that suggests that this is not the case, that there may be only the experience of consciousness knowing itself in and as objects, is sometimes considered to be intellectual and abstract. However, it is precisely the idea that the body and the world exist as objects in time and space, independent and separate from consciousness, that is intellectual and abstract. It is not based on experience. And by the same token, the idea that there is only the experience of consciousness knowing itself in and as objects becomes self-evident, obvious, and indisputable fact of experience. And by the same token, the idea that there is only the experience of consciousness knowing itself in and as objects becomes a self-evident, obvious, and indisputable fact of experience. Of course, the appearance of physical objects continues, but appearance is no longer mistaken for reality. However, it would be a misunderstanding to think that appearances have to disappear for reality to be revealed. It is simply that the misinterpretation is no longer superimposed onto experience. The body and the world continue to appear in the same way, but it is clearly seen that the experience of the appearance of the body and the world takes place simultaneously with the experience of consciousness knowing itself. Again, the body and the world continue to appear in the same way, but it is clearly seen that the experience of the appearance of the body and the world takes place simultaneously with the experience of consciousness knowing itself. It is the same experience, one experience. The experience of consciousness knowing itself knowingly in and as all appearances becomes as obvious and self-evident as the previous, apparently obvious and self-evident experience of objects existing in time and space, independent and separate from consciousness. Thank you, Pekka. I'm trying to speak up in volume because I've got a naturally quiet voice. So I'm hoping that the pronunciation is better, and that in time you'll come to um, understand my British accent a lot better. So in these silences, I'm hoping that the truths, the contemplations that we're being pointed towards, that are helping us to take some time and just feel into the experience of awareness or consciousness being aware of itself, knowingly being itself. It's so simple, it's so clear. It's just here. There's no having to look for it. It's just ever present. I used to think that I had to get rid of thoughts and feelings and emotions to find it, to get to that pure awareness. But I realised that certainly through this work, that all these labels and individual thoughts that the mind had abstracted and labelled as separate and individual things were actually all made out of this very stuff, this substance of knowing. What truly is, whatever it is that is seeing and understanding these words, is what is referred to here as consciousness. It is what we know ourselves to be, what we refer to as I. Everything that is known through consciousness. Therefore, whatever is known is only as good as our knowledge of consciousness. What do we know about consciousness? We know that consciousness is, and that everything is known by and through it. So we know that consciousness is, and that everything is known by and through it. However, consciousness itself cannot be known as an object. If consciousness had any objective qualities that could be known, it would be the knower of those qualities, and would therefore be independent of them. We cannot therefore know anything objective about consciousness. Therefore, if we do not know what consciousness is, what I am, but we know that it is, and if everything that we experience is known through or by this knowing consciousness, how can we know what anything really is? All we can know for sure about an object is that it is, and the quality of isness is what is referred to here as being or existence. It is that part of our experience that is real, that lasts, that is not a fleeting appearance. It is also therefore referred to as its reality. We know that consciousness is present now, and we know that whatever it is that is being experienced in this moment exists. It has existence. If we think that we know something objective about ourselves or the world, then whatever that something is that we think we know will condition our subsequent inquiry into the nature of experience. So before knowing what something is, if that is possible, we must first come to the understanding that we do not know what anything really is. Therefore, the investigation into the nature of ourselves and of the world of objects initially has more to do with the exposure of deeply held ideas and beliefs about the way we think things are, than of acquiring any new knowledge. It is the exposure of our false certainties. Once a belief that we previously held to be a fact is exposed as such, it drops away naturally. Whether or not something further than the exposure of our false ideas about the nature things needs to be accomplished remains to be seen. Whether or not something further than the exposure of our false ideas about the nature of things needs to be accomplished remains to be seen. We cannot know that until all false ideas have been removed. Many of our ideas and beliefs about ourselves and the world are so deeply ingrained that we are unaware that they are beliefs and take them without questioning for the absolute truth. For instance, we believe that we are a body, that we are a man or a woman, and that we were born and will die. We believe that we are an entity amongst innumerable other entities, and that this entity resides somewhere in the body, usually behind the eyes or in the chest area. We believe that we are the subject of our experience and that everything and everyone else is the object. We believe that we, as this subject, are the doer of our actions, the thinker of our thoughts, the feeler of our feelings, the chooser of our choices. We believe that this entity we consider ourselves to be has freedom of choice over some aspects of experience, but not others. We believe that time and space are actually experienced, that they existed before we did, and will continue to do so after we have died. We believe that objects exist independently of their being perceived, that consciousness is personal and limited, that it is a byproduct of the mind, and that mind is a byproduct of the body. We believe that objects exist independently of their being perceived, that consciousness is personal and limited, that it is a byproduct of the mind, and that mind is a byproduct of the body. These and many other such beliefs are considered to be so obviously true that they are beyond the need of questioning. They amount to a religion of materialism to which the vast majority of humanity subscribes. This is especially surprising in areas of life that purport to deal explicitly with questions about the nature of reality, such as religion, philosophy, and art. The only field available for inquiry is experience itself. This may seem almost too obvious to mention, but its implications are profound. It implies that we never experience anything outside experience. If there is something outside experience, we have absolutely no knowledge of it and therefore cannot legitimately assert that it exists. This in turn implies that if we are to make an honest investigation into the nature of reality, we have to discard any presumptions that are not derived from direct experience. Any such presumptions will not relate to experience itself, and will therefore not relate to ourselves or the world. If we honestly stick to our experience, we will be surprised to find how many of our assumptions and presumption turn out to be untenable beliefs. All experience takes place here and now. So the nature of reality, whatever that is, must be present in the intimacy and immediacy of this current experience. All experience takes place here and now. So the nature of reality, whatever that is, must be present in the intimacy and immediacy of this current experience. I, consciousness, is present and something. These words, the sound of the traffic, a feeling of sadness, whatever it is also present. We do not know what this consciousness is, nor do we know what the reality of these words or the current experience is. However, there is the consciousness of something, and there is the existence of that something. Both are present in this current experience. What is the relationship between them? So again, we do not know what this consciousness is, nor do we know what the reality of these words or the current experience is. However, there is the consciousness of something, and there is the existence of that something. Both are present in this current experience. What is the relationship between them? Consciousness, existence. Thank you for joining this reading, Pekka. And for anyone that's going to listen back at a later time, it's been beautiful, and for consciousness to be exploring itself in this way through the guided contemplations of Rupert Spira. So we're going to be ending the broadcast just now, and plan to resume again next week. So thank you.